Commencing Atlas System Suit Initialization. Life support systems activated. Shield kinetic system online. Aerial propulsion jetpack online. Multi-tool and mining laser attachment operational. User initialization sequence complete.
Welcome to my Permadeath No Starter Ship Challenge for No Man's Sky. Now this is by no means a new or unique challenge. I saw some videos with YouTuber Survivor Bob that did some variations on this theme, and I thought it might be fun to try it out and see how long it would take me to find a derelict ship or a trading post where I might be able to buy a starter ship without ever setting foot in the starter ship that the game makes available to you at the outset. Now, I'm no expert by any stretch in No Man's Sky. I only recently posted my first video about the game, documenting how I died 3 times before I knew, the basic elements of how to survive in the game. So I haven't really progressed very far at all. I just thought it might be fun to see if I could follow in Survivor Bob's footsteps and cope with a scenario, as if I had been marooned on a planet with nothing but my hazard suit and multi-tool to help me. So, if you don't immediately see a cave or shelter, obviously you need to fix your scanner in order to locate sodium. The game does not give you much margin for delay or error here because you start with your hazard protection suit almost completely depleted. And if you don't see a cave, you have to start gathering ferrite, meaning metallic dust gathered from mining minerals, immediately, and fix your scanner. Because if you can't get the scanner fixed, you won't have an easy time acquiring your first critical resource here, which is sodium, this bright yellow plant here. Your starter location is randomized, so there may not be any nearby caves, and sodium may be your only lifeline for the first several minutes of the game. But if you do find a cave or you do find sodium initially, then you can, and you've survived your first minute of the game, you're going to want to gather some other things like dioxide or the dihydrogen crystals here, these blue crystals. Before setting out on a long distance journey above ground, it's very helpful and surprisingly easy to acquire a couple items that are better than straight sodium and oxygen for your hazard suit and your life support. The game doesn't really, hold your hand to teach you this stuff except for acquiring sodium in the first place. But if you take the time, once you've found some shelter, to take a look at your crafting menu, you will see that there's, 2 items that you can make that are way more efficient at charging your hazard suit and your life support than raw sodium and oxygen. So these 2 crafted items are the ion battery and the life support gel. And interestingly, they don't actually require sodium or oxygen to make. They require different base ingredients. Surprisingly easy to craft. If you can find a cave, you can craft ion batteries. They only take a little bit of ferrite dust and cobalt. So here I've found my first cave. Try not to kill myself on the way down. But yes, if you can find a cave, you can usually find cobalt stalagmites or stalactites all over the place on most planets in the game. And if you're lucky enough to be able to do that, and lucky enough to have ferrite as well in the same cave, and even carbon in the same cave, you should be able to gather, 50 to 100 cobalt, and that'll get you 5 to 10 ion batteries very early on in the game. Far better for charging your hazard suit than sodium. And secondly, for the life support gel packs, right? You need to make these jellies. You need to make these jellies out of your dihydrogen first. And you also need a little bit of carbon for that. But that'll get you these life support gels, a full recharge of your life support. And because life support is generally longer lasting than hazard protection, your life support gels will probably be a little less crucial early on, especially once you've got your first 1 or 2 life support gels packed away in your exosuit. So here I am in a huge cave system that I managed to stumble upon. And amazingly, it seems to have dihydrogen, ferrite, although I haven't seen much in the way of cobalt yet. It even has some condensed carbon here. Okay, that looks like some cobalt might be up there, quite high, if I can figure out a way to get up there. There we go. Getting attacked by a hostile plant. There it is. The hostile plants, the hostile flora, hazardous flora, are typically, you can get sodium or oxygen out of those. So they're also good to take out, in addition to sometimes needing to take them out just to get past them in caves. But that's another source of sodium and oxygen for you. But here we have these, looks like little mineral formations of cobalt, mostly of cobalt. This cave has the benefit of having carbon, ferrite, cobalt, and dihydrogen, and even a few other things in it, all in one place, which is fantastic for a cave early on in the game. All the things that you're going to need to get you started on your surface journey. Now the wavelength scanner is also a good thing to craft early on. The basic scanner helps you find sodium, oxygen, and dihydrogen, but the wavelength scanner lets you do two different important things. What's it called? It's called the analysis visor. Sorry, I'm calling it the wrong thing. The analysis visor. It lets you do two important things, though. It lets you scan flora and fauna and mark them as discovered, like this, early on as well. It lets you mark them as discovered in your discoveries database. And apart from being pretty cool, scanning flora and fauna earns you units or currency as well. And scanning flora and fauna and minerals on top of that sometimes lets you learn about secondary elements within a mineral or plant that you can also mine with your mining laser. So you're getting extra resources from mining those items if you've scanned them properly. And the wavelength scanner, or the sorry, I keep calling it the wrong thing, the analysis visor, also lets you scan for items of interest in a certain radius around you. You can pick up things like buried caches, salvaged tech, damaged machinery, medical stashes, and things like that. And you can pick up mineral veins like copper, dioxide, silver, gold, and so on. Now, without access to a terrain manipulator, you won't be able to dig into the earth for buried items or to mine these large mineral veins, but you can locate things with the analysis visor that do have the potential to be extremely helpful early on. So the damaged machinery, the cargo drops, and so on, because you have a chance to find, crafted items and usable tech for your exosuit, your spaceship, your multi-tool, early on in the game, finding things that you can automatically upgrade your tech with. And of course, you can also scan with your analysis visor. You can pick up buildings, shelters, settlements, trading posts, and things like that. So very helpful. There's a limited range on that, but it's definitely very helpful. So you need to upgrade your multi-tool to include your analysis visor early on as well. So here, I'm just going to fast forward some of this gathering of these resources. Now that I've got my scanner and my analysis visor in place, and I know I need to gather a whole bunch of cobalt and resources to get me my ion batteries and my life support gel packs. So I'll just fast forward a little bit here until I've gathered up some of these starting resources. So it's only 10 cobalt and 5 ferrite dust per ion battery. So if you're in a nice big cave system like this, it's very easy to get like 10 or even 20 ion batteries stocked away in your storage. And that's going to be, generally good enough to start you on your way, on your surface journey. But now that we're set up with some ion batteries and some life support cells or gels, we're in a position to start exploring the surface of the planet with relative safety at this point. So my only rule for this playthrough is to basically avoid going anywhere near the starter ship and quest line. So that means I'm not going to have access to some basic items that you might otherwise get somewhat early on, like the mining tool or the terrain manipulator, it's called. So it means I'm not going to have access to buried loot and to salvaged tech unless it's already on the surface. And I know I need to find or buy a different ship, which means finding a crashed or derelict ship from a distress signal, or perhaps buying one from a random captain at a trading post. Either option will work for my purposes here, but I need to basically pick a direction and try to stick with it. So here I've decided to pick a more or less southerly direction because the S shows up relatively clearly on my directional finder. And it looks like some of the ships that are flying by are going in the same relative direction. So my hope here is that this means a trading post might be somewhere in that general direction. And I definitely don't want to end up running around in circles for hours. So picking a point on the directional compass and trying to more or less stick with it seems like a good idea to me. Because I have a bit of a buffer now with my batteries and my gel packs, my life support gel packs, I'll do some scanning along the way of flora and fauna, and I'll take every so often a scan with my analysis visor and see what pops up. So here, running towards a cargo drop that's only 50 units away, scanning along the way. So we'll run towards the cargo drop and see what we can find, while generally sticking in a southerly direction, hoping to find some kind of building or settlement. Condensed carbon is handy for recharging your mining tool, so that's why I'm gathering that up right now. And that'll let me keep my regular carbon for making more life support gels.
Technology recharge. Toxic protection falling.
Nanites are another form of currency in the game, and they're mostly handy for purchasing different kinds of technology that you can get.
Units received. Units received.
All right, so you've got the basic idea. Scanning, looking for salvageable items, and moving in a southerly direction. So I will zoom forward some of this as we go. You can gather up those rusted metal scraps there, and you can either sell them or you can process them later on when you get yourself a refinery, and then you can turn them into ferrite dust, which is another handy thing to know in the game when you're, especially if you're short on ferrite dust. Some planets seem to be harder to gather it than others, so that scrap metal is a good way to get it on those planets where it's not abundant, or if you can't quite afford to buy it from a trading post yet, or you haven't even discovered a trading post. That's one way to get it.
Toxic protection. Falling.
So I am trying consistently to look through these kinds of boxes, chests, drop pods, whatever you call them, hoping to maybe find some usable tech. Because sometimes, if you're lucky, you can find things for your exosuit that will help with your hazard protection versus particular types of environments. So, for example, you can get specific tech that helps you against freezing cold planets, boiling hot planets, radiated planets, or poisonous gas and toxic planets. And essentially, the really good quality ones that you can sometimes find will more or less double the effectiveness of your ion batteries and your life support gels. They'll basically mean that those things will, in essence, last twice as long. Generally try to avoid those sentinels, these little red flying sentinels, early on. They usually get mad at you for mining resources on planets. Anything that is interpreted as destructive to the planet. And they can and will attack you and call in reinforcements if you're not careful. So if you manage to trigger their defenses and they get mad at you, usually if you just immediately run away, stop what you're doing and start running away, they will lose interest. Generally, that's a good thing to do early on if you're not prepared to actually engage one or more of them in combat. There are ways to get the resources that you need, with these sentinels around. You can usually wait for them to lose interest and move on, and then get out of your immediate range, and then acquire the resource that you've been waiting for. So there are things you can do to avoid the sentinels and avoid combat. Now the analysis visor has a limited range. I think it's 500 or 600 units distance, at least early on, until you can upgrade it a little bit. You can increase its scanning radius with new tech. But the radius is also generally blocked by some forms of terrain for certain types of things. So scanning when you get to the top of the crest of a hill, overlooking a valley is often a good place to scan. So here you notice I just spotted my first unknown building. So with luck, right, that could be an inhabited location. It could be a trading post. But you have to get there and find out what it is. So here, no, it's not a trading post. But it is a place of shelter, and sometimes you can find tech near these locations. You can find nanites, you can find tech, and you can also activate these little beacons here, which acts as a kind of a saving point for your game, and it also gives you navigation data, which is something you're going to need as well in the game later on. But if you can collect these navigation data, I mean, you can sell them or you can use them yourself for certain purposes, particularly for calling your spaceship to you once you have one. And these shelters are a good place to sort of recharge your hazard protection if you are low on batteries, or even if you're not low on batteries, it's useful to not waste them. You might as well get yourself charged up to full before you head back out into the wilds. So here I'm going to keep scanning. I had seen another building not too far from here, so that's likely going to be the next spot to check out. The thing that now this place shows up on my scanner as a known building called a shelter. So previously it was called an unknown building, and now it shows up as a shelter. So I will go towards the new unknown building and see what that is. Another small little outpost, unmanned outpost. So not much of interest at these locations, but who knows, maybe there will be some tech.
Toxic protection falling. Toxic protection stabilizing. Toxic protection stabilizing. Toxic protection falling. Toxic protection falling. Technology recharge. Toxic protection falling. Toxic protection falling. falling.
So here you can see that my inventory is getting full, and inventory management becomes more of an issue now that I'm gathering all these kinds of resources. One thing to note is that your cargo space, I start with 2 slots in my cargo space, but my cargo space holds twice as much in a slot as my general storage. So you can combine, I've got my 2 stacks of rusted metal here, I can combine it into a stack of 500 in my cargo space. So that's one way you can make better use of your space.
Toxic protection falling. Technology recharge.
Okay, this looks like my very first trading post right here. It's been about an hour and 20 minutes or so of actual game time running across the planet. And this is what I've been looking for, or one of the things I've been looking for. So it's a place to sell goods, sell resources, buy goods, buy components for crafting, buy tech, and buy a starter ship if I can make enough money. So normally a starter ship costs you at least 500,000 units, often closer to 600,000 units for the lowest end ships that you can buy. So that's what I'm going to need to, that's the amount of money I'm going to need to raise in order to actually acquire my starter ship. So here, okay, and here is my first acquisition of a usable tech, a shield module, S quality, which is the best you can generally find for a starter ship or for any ship. So I just need to buy my ship and then I'm on my way. Now I don't know how much I'm going to be able to make from selling the items that I've already found. I don't think I have much of very high value at this point, but we'll see how much I can sell at the vendor here, and if I can get 500,000 or so, I have my ship. If I don't have near that, I'm gonna have to go find a cave and probably harvest some cobalt, gold, silver, gold, cobalt, to make the money I need for my starter ship. But basically I've already more or less fulfilled the no starter ship challenge that I set out to accomplish by finding a trading post in the first place. So this is probably a good place to stop. If you want to see more, you want to see me acquire the money that I need to buy the ship and actually do that, let me know. Give me a like, subscribe. Let me know if you want to see a follow-up video to this, and we'll go from there. But for now, have a good day. Safe travels.